Well, I think I was probably the last person you expected to sit in front of the camera today, but before we start with my next guest, I just wanted to tell you a few things. Firstly, that this is video or interview number 25 in the British Skating Legends interviews that I do, which over the course of the last 13 years has been a real pleasure to do. The first one I did back in April 2011 was of John Mullane, and it was basically just to ingratiate myself with just his own history, because I was just interested in what he had to say, especially because he skated with my father. And then it sort of just grew, basically because I wanted to know about John Foley, and then Mick McGough, and then Bob Halford. And so as it grew, I became more aware of some of the history of the sport in terms of the people who had made the sport, and felt that I wanted to go and talk to them. And hopefully the fact that I did that and got their experiences down on film means that I can share those experiences now with the likes of yourselves who might be interested. I think some people do respectfully decline, which is fine, but most accept and agree to do it, and pretty much everybody who does it then comes away feeling quite satisfied with the result and the fact that they sat down and had a chat and dug up memories that they probably haven't thought about in sometimes for decades. The reason I'm doing this is because just yesterday I received an email from the son of Jamie McDonald Brown. Now, Jamie informed me that another British skating legend, Dennis Hill, recently passed away, and I interviewed Dennis back in 2012 at his home in Pinner. A very interesting character, and I love sharing a pint with him and discussing old times. But what really struck me was that Jamie found that, I think he spoke to his mother, who alerted him to the website British Skating Legends, and he went on there and he joined, and he came across the interview of his own father, Don Brown, that I did again back in 2012. And he said that it was the first time that he'd heard his father's voice since he passed away in 2016. And that struck a bit of a chord in me, because when I look back through the 25 interviews that I've done, many of those people are no longer with us. And it's my hope and intention that I can capture not only their memories for their own satisfaction of discussing them, but for the posterity of the sport. And as we always say, without a history, there is no future. Anyway, I'll pass up now and we'll get on with our next guest. Okay, so this is interview number 25 in the British Skating Legends sort of catalogue of interviews that I've been doing, and some might recognise or might not recognise, but I'm with certainly a legend, is Rohan Harlow. So welcome to Northampton, Rohan. I know this is the first time I'm doing it here. So before we get going properly, so when and where were you born?
I was born in Canterbury back in '66, to John, who everyone knows, and my mum Jill. Okay,
and how did you get into skating then?
I wanted to be a hockey player because my mum's brother John, Johnny Cook, was an England international hockey player, and that's roller hockey. And I started on the Pier Pavilion. In fact, I actually started skating on the Pier Pavilion, but it had been burnt down previously.
Yeah.
So everyone skated in the old bandstand, but I couldn't skate. I could just scoot along on one foot. I just used to wear the toes out on the other boot. So I actually learned to skate on the Pier Pavilion. And Jim Lippier, who was, people will remember with his kids, picked me up and wanted to speak to my dad. Thought I'd be quick, and then maybe a week later I raced against Andy Perry,
and from Birmingham,
and Matthew Davis, I think it might have been. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's how it all started.
So Jim wasn't to do anything to do with the hockey at the time. He was all
he just saw me skating in a public session, and that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I hadn't played hockey. I was literally just skating around the rink.
But did you play hockey?
I did, yeah. I mean, it was suggested that it would help my acceleration.
Right.
Because I got relatively strong, I guess, but I wasn't particularly quick. So I didn't actually pick up hockey until probably a couple of years later. My brother was much better than me.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's why I played hockey.
And did you ditch that once the speed skating came along? Or
No,
just
I carried on playing. I think it was Friday nights. I played in a scratch team, and I didn't have any kit, so it was football socks with paperback books stuffed down the front, and I carried on for a couple of years, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, so that would have helped anyway. I mean, a few hockey players. Well, there's a few hockey players who've been speed skaters over the years, especially down in Kent, in the Herne Bay area.
Yeah.
People like Alan Catty. He went on to be an international hockey player from the 50s. So that's interesting. So you'd have been what age then? What, about 11?
11, yeah.
Okay. So do you remember your first race?
It was on the Pier Pavilion, and I think I came third.
You did?
Yeah.
30th of January 1977.
Is that really?
Yeah.
Jubilee year.
Jubilee year, yeah, because I don't think the Pier Pavilion had been open that long. I think it opened around about 76 when they rebuilt it.
Yeah.
The cave shed, as they used to call it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. So, but then, so in actual fact, so although you started in early 77, but it wasn't Herne Bay Flyers.
It was Herne Bay United.
Okay.
And that was then they had a speed section of the hockey club, and that's where Jim was involved, Jim Lippian.
Yeah, because I think going back a long time, I think Herne Bay United had been an old team back in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, that's who my uncle Johnny Cook would have played for.
Right. Okay. So going on a couple of months then. So we've gone to the May 77. So it's still quite early in your career, but you did take part in the British Championships. So I don't know if you remember that, but it was at Granby Halls.
Yeah.
And you were in 6 but you did actually medal in the British Championships again. So you're on the podium in the British Championships, so you're just like 11, well, you're not even 11 yet, are you? You're only 10, May 77.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be 11 for another couple of months to the October. And then you continue to get medals, but your first gold medal, now I know I'm telling you stuff that you're thinking,
No, it's a long time ago.
But 18th of June 1977, so another month on, you take your first gold medal, Abbey Park in Leicester.
Abbey Park.
Do you remember Abbey Park?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think from memory, there were 2 races that were pretty much back to back, different weekends.
Yeah.
And the first weekend, you'll remember the circlips on the wheels. My wheel came off, and I was in front, and I did finish the race, but with a half a scuffed off axle, and then it's blurry.
Yeah.
But I think then the next week we got the clips sorted, and
Yeah, there was a guy, I don't know if his name was John Clearly, somebody Clearly.
Jamie Clearly.
Jamie Clearly.
Jamie Clearly raced for YC21.
That's right, you Centre 21.
Yeah.
Sorry. So then you go on to win your first British title on Southampton in the 7 to 11 years, 500 metres.
Yeah.
Talk me through that then. Can you remember that?
I can't remember the race.
Right.
But I can remember. I'm pretty sure we stayed a couple of days before. We might even have been there a week before, camping. So we'd have been in tents. We weren't hotel type people, and we were training on the track every day.
Big old circuit.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I remember more than warming up and doing laps and laps. I did way too much, but I just loved it. I loved the. There were no corners. It was just a straight road.
Yeah, for the kid it was.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, the time you did a time of 59.6 seconds, right? Now, that's still a record for that age.
Is it?
On the road, so it is. Yeah, it's not quite a British record now because the actual age groups are different. They do in terms of how they're.
Well, that's fantastic news. It's never going to be broken.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So in that age group of 7 to 11 years as it was at the time, but so 59.6 seconds. I mean, that's now. I mean, for a kid of 10 to go under a minute for a 500 metres is quite a good achievement, really. I mean, even today, if you look at kids today, you know, so
I wonder what wheels that would have been on.
I don't know, so yeah, died, lip bombs, I don't know. But anyway,
that would have been it might even have been red Atlantics.
It could have been red Atlantics.
Or hockey wheels.
But what are your memories of those early years? So, like, what was it like when you talk about you stayed down there? So you're travelling and training and the team. So who else was in Herne United, by the way? Was there anybody?
My younger brother.
Yeah.
I don't think he was old enough to race.
Okay. He probably wouldn't have been actually now.
Because I think the age groups were 6 to 9 and 9 to 11, but
something
championships they didn't race the younger ones.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't really remember, but obviously the Lippiot girls would have been around myself, possibly Jamie Godden, Ian, probably Ian Ashby would have been around.
Yeah, United.
Maybe David Jackson. I'm not sure Quinny would have been then. He would have, maybe a year or two later.
So, but what was it like? So you know, speed skating. It's still early days, really. But like, was it quite exciting travelling down in? You know, did you stop over? Did you
we would try and get every advantage that we could. And then going. It was never hotels. It was always camping. So yeah, we would go and prep. That was quite organised in that. We were very focused on doing our best.
I'm gonna talk about your dad a bit later, but actually probably point that you did. And was he driven? Was he driven for success?
I wouldn't say he was driven. I'd say he was obsessed.
Really? Yeah.
No. In every positive way.
Yeah.
Nothing but positive things. Oh, he's my dad, obviously, but
yeah.
I think we were both much more driven than my more talented younger brother, who had all of the skills and talent and didn't have the same application. I think
you might watch this. You do realise that.
I hope he does, because he knows how there was a lot of potential that wasn't really fully fulfilled. He was very gifted.
So was you training quite, even as a kid then, was you training quite hard, or?
Yeah.
So you was, yeah?
Yeah, it started off, I think when I got the first medal, the following week we were down in the park, the Herne Bay Memorial Park, racing around the flower beds, and we would go 2 or 3 nights a week. Right. And we would try and, that was at the time when skaters still had stops on the front of the skates. Because basically it's pretty much all indoors at the time. Yeah. So outdoors didn't really happen that much. So we would try, Dad would make different softness of stoppers to see if you get a better grip when you were pushing off, and we'd practice. I was 10, 11 years old. So yes, yeah. And I have to say the same thing happened when my son was a similar age, but not skate, he was playing rugby. But yeah, we've always been pretty focused.
Marginal gains.
Marginal gains, yeah. Dad was the first Dave Brailsford.
Is that right? So in '77, the team changed their name from Herne Bay United to Herne Bay Flyers.
Yeah, I don't know the politics of it.
And what was the politics?
It was politics, yeah. It was a new club.
Okay.
So I think there was probably, we were gaining more notoriety than the hockey side of things, and the dance. And Jim was a flamboyant figure.
Yeah.
And I remember we'd train on Sunday, and then often Sunday afternoons as a family we'd go to the Lippiots in Roland Drive up in Green Hill, Herne Bay, and there was lots of conversations about what we were going to do, and we were mocking up red, white and blue team colours, and then it all kind of happened, and then so that's when it started. Yeah,
I mean, I remember Jim as a kid, because he used to work the markets as well.
He did, yeah.
I think he worked in the collieries, I think, before that.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's true, yeah.
And I must catch up with Denise on one of these interviews at some point. So, October 78, so we're moving on a bit now. So you're moving up an age group, 13 to 15, and then you come up against the likes of Mark McGrath, Gary Burgess.
Yeah.
What was it like? Can you remember what it was like moving up an age group? Because you must have been quite successful in your 17
I didn't like losing, but obviously I stepped up the training, so it was an incentive, and the don't know what age you started junior Euros, but that would have been around that point as well, wasn't it? Was it 13, 14?
So yeah, well, October '78 was a couple. The first junior Euros was 1980.
Yeah.
So you're looking at probably about another 18 months
Yeah.
before it was, before the first. But Mark was knocking on the door. I mean, Mark was only a youngster, but I think a year later than that, he was like a reserve for the senior team in Zandvoort.
Yeah.
I know Gary Burgess was another up and coming youngster that I can remember my dad and like the likes of John Mullane thinking that Gary Burgess was going to be a real, force to reckon with when he turned senior, which it was going to be, it wasn't going to be too long before he did. What was it like competing against them though?
Well, they were always a little bit older than me. I was the youngster in that group, so there was me, and then above me there was Quinny and David Jackson, and then Gary was a year or two older than them. So it was always people to chase. So yeah, I was very competitive with them.
Okay. Well, you won your first race in that age group was the 3rd of February 1980. So you went through a bit of a lean period. These older boys, were putting you in your place. But on the pier, funny enough, you won it 3rd of February 1980. You win on the pier. But then after that, pretty much they'd gone. But Mark McGrath and Gary had moved up and moved up again. But it's now David Jackson, Jacko, who's the golden boy of the 13 to 15s, and he's sort of taking everything that before him.
Indeed.
How was that? How was your relationship with Jacko at that time?
He was older and bigger and stronger, and he used to beat me all the time, and I didn't like it, but I got on with him okay. We went to different schools.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I didn't know
so
that.
I went to grammar school down in Thanet, which was. And it meant I didn't really socialise with the other lads in the club because I was going to school and coming back and training and what have you. So I wasn't particularly close to them. They all went to school together and were much closer friends. I was a little bit on the outside, I'd say.
Yeah, because because Herne Bay, it was full of youngsters. Coming up to 1980 and 81. There was, when I think about the kids like Kevin Taunton.
Yeah.
Sean Birch, Dawn Birch, the McCulleys, the Dieballs. I can reel them off now. All these, and they're all.
I'm glad you can.
When I think about it, yourself and Quinny and and Ashby and Burgesses and there was a massive the Coxes, all these people. Oh, there was a big glut of youngsters that were. It was such a big team at that time. It seemed to have grown really quickly.
It did, yeah.
But what was that attributed to?
The only real sport was skating. It was the big thing.
It was, for Herne Bay.
Yeah, and I think you had some kind of charismatic kids that had loads of friends.
Right.
And it just snowballed.
Yeah. Because in the early days, like you said, you got Neil Hedger and Jamie Garden, and and then it sort of. Well, August 1980, you were selected for your first ever. And the first ever Junior European Championships at Venice and Finale Amelia. What was the build up to that like when they said we're going to send a team to this? Do you remember what that was like?
There was selection. Obviously, you needed to get into. We weren't sure who was going to make it. I think I was probably towards the top of the queue there. So I was pretty confident I'd be going.
You was, you thought, I'm going to make this team. Because by a quirk of fate, Jacko was in the 13 to 15s, I think, from in the UK, but he was too old to go to the European Championships. It's a real quirk of how the age groups fell. But so you were expecting to go, sorry.
I would have been. I say, reflecting on 45 years ago now. I'd have been pretty confident that I was going, just really looking forward to it. We'd raced in Belgium, we used to go over to race a lot over there. It was an opportunity. I was a bit scared of flying, to be honest. I've never been on a plane before.
Really?
Yeah, I think did we have team blazers? I think we probably did.
You had tracksuits, I don't know the blazers.
So it was getting the kit and having. I don't think we had England on about it. I think we did have Great Britain on tracksuits.
Yeah,
I think Goffey sponsored them from memory.
Possibly, yeah. You think he might have done the Mac
did.
one? Yeah, probably did.
Yeah, it was really exciting, and this may be time playing tricks with me, but I've got a feeling that I was the first to actually compete. So the start was a 500 time trial.
Okay.
And I think I was the first on the line.
Oh, okay.
And that was on the Lido.
In Venice, yeah.
Which obviously is terrazza, so we were all on woods. I was utterly useless. I mean, I could barely stand up. And then he peed myself on the line. It was I was so scared. And I think a certain Oscar Galeazzo was racing in those as well.
Yeah, I think he might have been.
Yeah. He would have been the year above me because I was a year young.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good memories.
Well, in the team there was you, Neil Hedger.
Yeah.
Quinney.
Indeed.
John Quinney. Jamie Godden.
Yeah.
And Adrian Wordsworth.
Yeah.
That's
right. Yeah.
So there was actually so really, other than Adrian, it was all Herne Bay kids who had all come through. And so in a short space of time, you've got a junior national team, which is 4/5.
Yeah.
Herne Bay. What was it like as a team? What was the camaraderie like as kids? Was it fun? Did you? I imagine it would have been.
Yeah. I think we probably got a bit closer while we were on that trip together because we probably spent more time together than we had back home. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was good. It was good to be in that. And then the following year it was Pamplona.
Oh, well, I'll come to that.
Yeah.
In 1980 though, so you must have liked the position 10th because you finished 10th 4 times.
Did I really?
So it was your highest placing in 1980, but you finished 10th 4 times in them championships. And but Henry was the manager.
He was. Good old Henry Crystal.
And what was he like as a manager?
He was funny. It's very proper. I remember, not at the track, but at the roads, which were in Finale Emilia, Henry was introduced as the British senior skateboarding champion. And he proceeded to get on a skateboard at the end of the competitions and ended up flat on his back. Yeah. So he was going for a laugh.
I remember he always told me that in the 1938 World Championships at Wembley, he was on the lapboard. But anyway, apparently so. So 1981 then, so you come back from the Junior Euros and you start to come of age now. So the 13 to 15 year age group at the British Championships on Palmer Park. Herne Bay are really dominant in this age group with yourself, Ashby, Quinney. I think Jacko might have gone up an age group now. But you win the most. You, in actual fact, you win both British titles. Did you feel now is your time? I mean, you're still not at 16, but like, is now your time? You've won both junior British titles.
I thought at 16 I was already in the seniors.
This is 81, so you're not even. So in actual fact, you're not even 15 yet. You're still 14.
Okay. Yeah,
so
I went up a year early, so I would have.
It would have been the following year.
Yeah.
But this 81 on Palmer Park.
Yeah.
So you won the 2 junior titles on Palmer Park.
Yeah, I remember it.
So
it was me and Quinney were pretty close rivals.
Yeah. Yes.
I think Quinney was probably a little bit quicker than me. I was probably a little bit stronger.
Right.
I remember. It was very tactical. And on Palmer Park, Quinney would always try and get me in the front and be on my back. And we dropped right in the, I can't remember the distances, but in the longer one, I dropped way back.
About 1,000, I think. It was about 1,000 metres, I think.
Yeah, trying to make him take the lead. So it was good fun. Thinking back about it, it was kids racing, wasn't it?
Did you, I mean, it was kids racing, so was it rivalry or did you dish them out amongst yourselves? Or
there was never any dishing out, only between me and my brother, but there's certainly none.
In the Herne Bay clan?
No, there was absolutely none of that.
Each man for himself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are quite dominant now, so 13 to 15, people are starting to take notice of Rohan Harlow, and then the Junior Europeans are in July in 1981 and they're in Pamplona. Again, you're selected and you become the first ever junior British medalist. Yeah. So talk me through the race and how it unfolded. And
I've got a lot to thank Ian Ashby and Simon Burgess for.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first race, I don't know about time trials and whatever, but certainly the first competitive race, I spent most of the time skating up the outside of a line with an inability to get into the line. Everyone was flat aerodynamically, and I was useless. When I came off, I had a stern talking to with my dad, and I got together with Simon and Ian, and we got to the front in the next race. We weren't allowed to race the 10k because we weren't strong enough to do that.
I'm going to talk about that.
Which broke my heart.
Yeah.
I was better at the longer distances. But yeah, in the 5k, I thought it was probably my best chance. So we went to the front and we came out of the corner, and Simon and Ian just stood up, and I blasted, and I was followed by one of the Prop brothers, Fabian Prop. I proceeded to do, I don't know, probably 4 of the 5k on my own at the front. I knew it got to the point where they weren't going to catch us, and I thought, what do I do here? Do I just go for a medal? Do I stand up and make him do some work? And I was just inexperienced and naive, and I lost by 2/200ths of a second.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that it was on the road?
On the road.
It was on the road, wasn't it?
It was a pin up and down. Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
So I remember it. Only recently have I actually seen it. I saw a video.
That's right.
Dan paid quite a lot of money at the time to try and get a video. We never saw it because he was convinced I'd won it. I obviously didn't. But yeah, 2/200ths of a second now, and only very recently I saw it was on YouTube.
It is. That's right. I think it surfaced. I think Jose Messiga.
Yeah.
Has had a copy and it's been posted on there.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if I posted.
He was absolutely outstanding at those championships.
Yes.
He was so far ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. In 81, yes.
He was very, very good.
And in I'm soil as well in Spain.
Yeah.
But so was you disappointed with second, or did you think fantastic?
A bit both, I guess. I'd medalled.
Yeah.
And I hadn't had to race in a line behind people on the outside, so the old fellow was happy. I'd given my best. I was gutted that I was beaten by him. He never beat me in a race ever again. But he raced a blinder, and it was.
And what was the mood like in the team with your with your achievement?
Everyone was obviously it was a bit of a buzz. Yeah, it was great. We'd arrived.
And did the others? Did the others that feel that they could also do something? Was it a bit of a pick me up, or was it? Or were you so far ahead of these guys at that time that they knew that it was really yours? And
without them, I wouldn't have got it.
Right.
And it gave me 10, 15 seconds. They were crawling along, and I'd gone flat out. The only one to chase was Fabian Prop, and without them, we wouldn't have happened. But I think probably the results of the races that year would reflect on that. I think I won a lot of what was going on.
Yes,
so, I'm not sure that there was a belief that we were going to do it again.
Okay.
And it was towards the end of the championships as well. I don't think there was that much racing left.
Right. Okay.
I can't recall whether it was track or road first.
No, I'm not sure either. Actually, I'm not sure.
But I was never particularly suited to racing on small bank tracks, so it was never going to happen.
Well, so you touched on it earlier about British juniors, and it seemed to me a ridiculous ruling, but they weren't allowed to do anything over 5,000 metres.
Yeah.
What's your take on that rule?
I think Dad went to court. I think we got a lawyer's letter. And
really?
Yeah, I believe so. I was out doing 10, 15 miles on the road on plastics.
Yeah.
So I was strong as a horse. I wasn't particularly quick, but I was strong, and I'd have been better suited to those longer distances. So yeah, I was gutted. I was absolutely.
What was
gutted.
their thinking behind that? Do you think?
It's the same as women that could only run 800 metres up to the 64 Olympics. It was just ridiculous, utterly ridiculous.
Considering that, it just seems so. What can I say? Considering that every other nation was allowed, It just seems so farcical that the stiff upper lip British felt that they knew best, and the juniors weren't allowed to do anything above 5k.
5k.
It bemuses me what went through their mind in those days.
I'm not sure a lot went through their mind. It was the rule, and they stuck with it.
I don't know. Well, I think, the only thing I would say in their defence, I suppose, is that the junior Euros were still very early, and we never did distances great enough for juniors in our country. But anyway.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's true. They will,
But you'd have thought somebody would have gone, well, hang on, if it's okay for the Italians, the Spanish, the Belgians, I think maybe we should revisit this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, just one last point on this. So, did you actually enter the race and come up after 5k, or did you just not do it?
We weren't allowed on, no.
Right.
Yeah, if I'd entered the race, they wouldn't have got me off the track. There's no chance.
So, in the early parts of the 81-82 seasons, you've come back from the Junior Euros and you got your silver medal, and then you're 15 in the October, and then just after that, you applied to skate senior. What's the thinking behind that, and how did that come about? Bearing in mind that you turned senior on your 16th birthday at that time. You raced up until your 16th birthday, and on your 16th birthday, you was now a senior skater.
Yeah.
But you elected to skate.
I wanted it to be more competitive, and there wasn't the same kind of depth that there was in the seniors. So if I was going to progress as a senior, which would have been the next target, I needed to race with the seniors.
Was this something that you touted, or did your dad say, "I think, son, we should look at getting in the senior age group"?
It would have been a joint thing. Yeah, he would have been very pro that. Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, it's something I would have been very, very keen to do.
Because I think that I was not aware of anybody ever doing that in the past. I know since that time people have done it. I think Lisa Smith may have done it. I think Ashley did it. But I don't recall anybody up to that point
I don't think so.
Having asked for special dispensation to turn senior a year early. So there was quite a bit of a coup. So when they granted you that, I mean, how was that received? Was it expected that they would, or did you got wind of the fact they might, or?
I haven't got wind of anything. No, I didn't know. And the roller speed committee was stiff upper lip, and let's use that 10k as an example. Things didn't change too easily.
Yeah.
So I think we were probably a little surprised it was agreed. I don't know whether Pat Featon might have been involved in that decision.
Okay, yeah, because he would have been on the
committee
at the time. Yeah. Well, also, I believe Tom Bartlett thought it was madness.
He did.
Tom
and I had a tempestuous relationship.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that. Tell me more about that.
He did tell me at one point that as long as I had a hole in my arse, I'd never win anything. And that would have been in the Euros when we were at, I think it would have been his last Europeans.
Yazy and Santa Maria.
Santa Maria.
82,
yeah. And that doubled up. I think they went on from Euros onto Worlds.
They did finale nearly, yeah.
But I was still at school, and
I want to talk about that in a bit. But
I was advised not to.
So Bartley thought it was madness that you were even contemplating turning senior.
Yeah.
But then you turned senior, and pretty much immediately after they'd been granted permission, you break your collarbone.
Yeah, Crystal Palace, yeah.
What happened?
I was racing on new whip skates, and the kingpin on whips had to be changed. It was a light alloy, and we weren't aware of it. So, first race, I tried to break off the front, and the front truck just snapped off. So, obviously, the skates went in, pinged my feet up, and I face planted and cracked it.
Yeah, and how long did that put you out for?
About 6 days.
Was that all?
Yeah, broke it in 2 places, but I had it taped, and so I was back on skates within a week. Obviously, I couldn't race.
You couldn't race because I know that...
Yeah, no, I didn't race, but I trained.
What it meant was that the first round of British Championships at Tatum Park, you couldn't race.
No, I didn't race, but I was still training.
Yeah, and I know that because there's a letter, and I'll show you it later, but there's a letter I've got, and I think it's from your dad, to the federation saying that you're not going to race because you broke your collarbone, and it also means that Herne Bay can't field a relay team.
Oh, right. I couldn't push with one hand, could I?
So because you weren't skating, interestingly, they couldn't field a team. I mean, these days, people would just field the team and make short.
Yeah.
But so was you disappointed? Can you remember how it felt like?
I was in good nick. I was in really good nick.
Yeah, but
so I just wanted to race against your dad. Genuinely. So Feetham had retired by then, but your dad obviously was still racing, and Pat had always been a bit of a hero of mine. He was the big, strong on the road. That's kind of the way I saw myself a bit. I was gutted. I was really gutted.
So missing the Tatum Park champs must have been quite galling.
Yeah. To be honest, whether it was championships or racing around the school playground somewhere, I just wanted to race.
Yeah.
It was disappointing. I couldn't race, but I still kept my fitness up. I was still pretty strong.
Yeah. Well, we move on to the next round of British Championships, which weren't that long after that, to be fair. So like you said, you was still training, although you couldn't race, but you did come back racing, and at Palmer Park. Initially, so we know what happens towards the end of this, but in the 5K, you finished 4th in the 5K. But interestingly, you knocked my dad out in the heat. Now, I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know.
Yeah, so
heats for a 5K on a track that size?
Yeah, there was heats for a 5K on Palmer Park. And I think McGough won it.
Yeah.
But you're 4th, so you're sort of up there, so you come 4th. I don't think people really took note of your placing at that time. I think, McGough had retained his title. I think Fry had been knocked out in the heats, which, in them days, not unheard of, but it was a shock, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then we come on to the 20K, which, funnily enough, is actually your first senior medal.
Yeah.
The 20K. And I'll say for the camera, you win it. Winner, British champion, at 20K on Palmer Park, and you're 15. But talk me through the race.
I knew I was in really good nick. So, as I said, I didn't go to school with the other guys in the club. I went down to Ramsgate on Thanet, and I used to, in the build-up to big races, I'd cycle to school. So I had an agreement I could use the staff changing rooms and get myself cleaned up. But it was 23 miles each way. So I'd cycle in the morning, I'd run intervals at lunchtime with one of the rugby coaches, I'd cycle home, and then I'd skate in the evening. So I was massively overtraining, but I was in good nick. And the week before, we went down and stayed we camped on an old airfield, and we were training every day on the track, getting everything ready, making sure we were in the right place. And it was I loved it. Didn't enjoy the race was a bit was awkward.
So talk me through the awkwardness of this race then.
So I went off the front, and I got about 3/4 of a lap up. I think I was coming into the straight as they were leaving it, but then it was chased down. The lead was chased down.
Come on, you can tell me about it.
So we mentioned Gary Burgess earlier. We mentioned Jacko.
Gary was in the group as well.
The three of them went to the front and closed me down.
That's Jacko, Gary, and John Quinney.
Yeah.
And they chased you down.
My lovely teammates.
Well, he did say he was all for one. So
I was very angry, almost as angry as my dad, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So Dad, we reflected on this recently.
Okay.
I was chatting with Dad about it, and I don't remember doing this, but apparently, once the gap was caught, the race just fell flat. There was no attacks. It was really, really.
So they caught you back.
Yeah.
Oh, so I know. Well, the referee's report said you led by half a lap. It says, but for most of the race.
Yeah. No,
they chased and caught you back.
I was back.
So you didn't win off the front.
No, I won it from the back.
Okay.
It was Mickey McGough led out.
Kevin Partridge.
Yeah.
Through about 600 to go, I think.
Yeah, he did. And it was a lead out for me, really. It was perfect. But within 2 or 3 laps of them catching me, I'd give them a dab the thumbs up. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. I'd recovered, and the work I'd done in advance of it, it stood me in really good stead. I was in good nick then. Probably the fittest I've ever been.
Okay. So so you've gone off the front, you're 3/4 lap up, and you're fetched back by your teammates, and you had to sit back in. So how much of the race was still left to go? I mean, it wasn't a particularly fast race.
No, it was. The first half was solid. I was really pushing it, but I don't know, what was it done in
51 minutes.
51. So we
and they do it in 30 now.
Yeah. Well, I think back then on quads, it would have been probably 30, 38, 39, something like that.
Yeah.
No, we absolutely crawled around. We walked around for probably 10k.
Yeah.
And then Goffey wound it up at the end, it was just a lovely lead out for me. If it had been a bunch sprint, it would have been more difficult for me, but he just wound it up, and I just sat in there, and
And what was it like winning?
It's great. It was really good.
Well, can you, when you sit here now and reflect on that feeling about going over the line as British champion in the 20k, you can still feel it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, it meant a lot. I was 15, and I'd gone up a year early. I hadn't raced much at all because of the broken collarbone, so I was a bit. I had a lot of belief in myself, but I think that a lot of the other seniors, I was a bit of an unknown entity, and there's a big difference between kids and adults. So I wanted to prove a point, and in fairness, Goffey had won the 5. I think he said earlier. So I think he was pretty comfortable with with what he'd done, and leading out Kevin Partridge, who wouldn't have been one of the strongest skaters.
No, that's right.
It put me in a strong position. It put me in a strong position. Yeah.
There was 37 skaters that day in the 20k.
Yeah.
We're lucky these days if we get 10. I mean, really lucky if we get 10, but sad. But 37 senior men competing in that 20k on that day. When you crossed the line, did it dawn on you that you was the youngest British champion?
No, I don't.
At 15 years, 234 days.
Yeah, not really. Not really. Yeah, it does now.
It
did, I guess, Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, the fact that Ashley then broke the record. But anyway, because he's now the youngest, I think. And can you remember, seeing your dad straight after the race and how that, manifested itself? That sort of, my dad have won. Oh, great. Son.
Yeah, no, it would have been bear hugs, and it was.
So, and what was the general reaction to your victory? Do you know what it was? I mean, can you?
No, not really.
I
was 15. I was oblivious to that. It was, to me, it was completely normal because it's my only lived experience. I didn't really give too much thought to it. I had a lot of self-belief. I was an arrogant little shite.
I remember.
That was true. I put the work in. Everything was about being successful, about skating. Everything else was played second fiddle, really.
Was there anybody who who inspired you at that time or influenced you to become a great skater, or Well,
it all started off really just wanting to play hockey. I mentioned my uncle Johnny Cook, but evidently I was pretty good. And when you start to get positive feedback, you just want a bit more, don't you? And I guess that's the kind of kid I was back then. I just wanted to do well, and I wanted to make the family proud, and that was important to me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then so shortly after your victory in the 20k, you get selected for your first senior European Championships, and again you become the youngest ever senior team member at that time. And it's Yazi on the road and Santa Maria on the track. What was that experience like, being you're 15 but amongst the elites? I mean, people who've been around a long time as well in 80s.
Yeah.
So you'd still got McGough.
Yeah.
You'd got Bartlett, who had been around a while, the old man.
Yeah.
So what was the experience like amongst those?
I was probably a little bit oblivious to it. It's probably more of an experience for them having this kid on the team than it was for me. I just kind of accepted it. I think I was probably, quite a wise 15-year-old, but 15 nonetheless.
Was you cocky?
I don't know. Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I was very respectful of your dad, and Mulaney. They were I was in awe of them. And Pat.
He was the team manager, wasn't he? Pat?
Yeah.
He's not long retired. That's right. Yeah. But can you remember the races that you did in that first Europeans as a?
I can remember. I can remember in the 20 on the road. The road was a beautiful circuit. It really suited me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I finished relatively well in that.
I'm not sure. Do you know what? It's one of the few championships that I don't have results from.
I think I would have been in the top 7 or 8.
Okay.
I was up there. I remember coming around the outside and Goffey was sat in about a 5th or 6th, and it was about a lap and a half to go, and I looked across and he just shut the door on me. He's not letting that young kid ahead. I was racing men, and I was a big lad. I wasn't a frail 15-year-old.
Yeah, that's right.
I was built like a guy.
Yeah.
But I was still mentally, I was quite strong, but I was still a kid. So racing against all these heroes of mine, not just the international competitors, but my own teammates. You know, 1 minute you're trying to duff them up around Tainton Park, and the next minute you're in a national team together. Travelling in blazers, and it was impressive.
Can you remember being selected for that team? Again, was it a foregone conclusion in your own mind that you're going to make the national team this year, or was this a shock? And can you remember, getting your letter to say you're in the team, right?
I remember getting the letter. Yeah. There were no emails or anything back then, or phone calls. It was a letter. I think probably Mum and Dad had played it down a bit to me. I think that probably their expectations were that my results in the team training and in the racing justified it. But it was still a bit of a stretch. I mean, it was one. I think that's a point where the NSA really. It would have been quite easy for them to say, you're too young. Wait another year or two, and you'll be ready, and that could have been justified. Yeah. But no, they backed me. So I'll criticise them about that 10k in Pamplona, but in that respect, no, I think it was a good decision.
Well, the other thing is that, like you said earlier, the team went on to Finale Emilia for the World Championships after the Europeans in Yazi and Santa Maria. But you're not on the team. Yeah. But Darren Cobley is, John Quinney is, David Jackson is. Now, Quinney and Jacko are Herne Bay teammates. Darren Cobley, he's Milton Keynes, probably Birmingham at that time. None of whom were yet British champions.
Yeah.
Did you feel aggrieved? There was an age, but did you feel aggrieved, or was it just okay?
We didn't put ourselves forward for selection for the Worlds.
You didn't?
I didn't, no, I was advised not to.
By?
Chloe, I think, Chloe Ronaldson.
Okay.
So I used to stay with her before some of the London races, and she kind of helped me with my sprinting.
Yeah, Battersea,
Yeah, so we trained on Battersea Park and Finsbury Park.
Yeah.
Stayed there quite a few times. And I think it was two issues. One would have been missing school, and it was GCSEs or GCEs back then. Yeah. And I'd been given time off from school previously. I didn't really push the boat out.
Would you got the Euros? You had the Euros.
Yeah. Would it have been sensible for me to do both? Would I have coped with it all? Probably. Mm-hmm. But it didn't do me any harm not doing it. But I felt a massive sense of missing out.
I was going to say,
when they came back, they were talking about Tom Peterson and Donny Van Patter, and I don't know these names. I know all the Europeans. I've never been to the Worlds. I don't know. I've seen Scott Constantine racing around Zandvoort, but I didn't really know anyone that wasn't European.
So you wasn't aggrieved by it, but you did feel a sense of...
No, it was a positive decision on our part.
Okay.
The family, Chloe advising was probably not to do it.
Okay.
And so we didn't put ourselves forward for it, and I don't know whether they've been picked anyway, but maybe not. Maybe it was right at that age as a 15-year-old kid, a year younger than Quinney and Jacko.
Yeah, and Jacko. Your time or combat.
Yeah.
So in 1983, so move on to 83, and up to the British Championships in that year, it's quite a lean year, so I'm guessing a lot of that would have been schoolwork maybe.
Yeah, I didn't race.
Yeah,
I didn't race prior to O levels. I trained. I trained really hard, but I didn't have to peak and trough for weekends. So and my brother was still racing, but I'd stay at home and study.
Well, it's what's interesting. Interesting, but of note is that at the British Championships, you didn't skate for Herne Bay in the relay. It was Quinny, Ashby, Jacko, and Jeff Finlayson.
Right.
But I wonder, and in my head, I'm thinking, was that because you didn't, it was exams, or was there something else behind the fact you didn't race in 1980 at the British Championships for Herne?
What month?
They won, but they didn't. But you weren't in the team.
What month?
I'm guessing. I can only think it had been about July time.
So exams would have been done by then.
Yeah. Just seemed.
I don't know. That may be an arrogance on the flyers' part, thinking that we'd win it without me in there anyway. I don't know. I don't think there was. There may have been disputes. There was always politics involved, but I don't recall it. So.
Well, I remember Jeff joining Herne Bay because he was from Milton Keynes, and I think Darren Cobley had been talking about Darren joining Herne Bay, and I think Jeff was mates, and I think he joined, and then Darren decided not to, and I think he went and joined Birmingham. I think.
Mercy, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did join Mercer at some point. Yeah, it might even have been around that time, but and I know Jeff joined Herne Bay for a period, and then I said he won the. I just really, it was something that struck me when I looked at the team sheet that your name wasn't in the relay. I'm not sure if you did other races, but I don't know what it was that you did in the relay.
No, I did. I did.
Okay. But you then do go and win the 5K championship on Reading, and then the 1500 metres on Tatum Park in that year. So you obviously still got it and still coming good.
Yeah.
Do you remember those victories? Do you remember your next one at Reading and Tatum? You don't really remember them?
I love Tatum Park. It's about as small a track as I could get away with.
Yeah, because big, wide, sweeping.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't remember the races now.
Okay, but so in September you get selected again for the national team, and this time it's Cremona.
Yeah.
Remember Cremona?
I do.
And but you only race one race on the track.
Yeah.
Why?
I was rubbish.
Was you?
Yeah.
Weren't your forte, the track?
The only track I was any good at was Vienna '84, which was a nice
400 metre, nice big 400 metre track. Yeah.
I wasn't suited to. You mentioned the first race I ever won was on the Pier Pavilion.
It was.
Which was 110 metres.
It was 75 laps to the mile, I think.
Shocking. I just think the others were better than me.
So you're in the team, you do one race on the track, but then you come to the road and you do okay. You do okay on the road at Cremona. And
wasn't a strong championship for me.
Nothing to write home about.
No.
And you're left out of the relay, and the team come fourth. Did you think you should have had a pop at that?
Well, I'd always back myself. Yeah.
Because I think somebody pushed Ashby on his backside in the relay. I think he had a bit of a fall. It was Ashby and Dad and Cobley. I think it was only a three-man team. But yeah, because I think the team had got third on the track with Quinny. But
back then, I think I would have backed myself over Ian. I would have thought I would have got in the team ahead of him. Yeah, but I don't know whether there was injury. At Cremona, hold on. I think I went down and ripped half my backside off.
Oh, okay, on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Don't know.
Was that Cassano? I don't remember.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, well, okay. It was just, I just wondered, like you said, you'd probably back yourself over in the relay. It was just interesting that you didn't. So I don't know why that decision was made. But the Worlds then are in Argentina, and we don't send a team because we decided that we're going to go to war with Argentina over the Falklands, and so you missed out again. How did that feel?
I didn't really have the experience. I hadn't been to a Worlds before. The others had all been, so I probably hit them a bit harder. But Falklands War, which is the way it was.
Yeah. Okay. So again, you missed out. But would you have gone if somebody says stop the Falklands War? We're going to send a team.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I never raced in South America. I did.
You did Colombia. We're going to come on to in '84, which was shocking. So, Well, 84. So the British Championships are on the new Birmingham Wheels track.
Yeah.
It was 84. We said 83. It was 84. And Fry and Mullane won everything up until the last event, which is the 20k. I seem to recall you saying you knew who was going to win the race because we only had one set of wheels. With the bones.
Yeah,
and then
that's true.
They got one, and whoever was on the bones, you knew it was on to win.
Yeah.
But the 20k, and you win the 20k again. What's the whole story behind that, and how do you remember that race panning out? Probably not the early stages, but the latter stages.
Well, gutted that I hadn't picked up anything of note in the previous ones. It had been a complete wheels wipeout. They'd taken everything, and it was a bit of to and fro between me and your dad. And then last corner, I went out wide and came up the inside on the finishing straight. I know we've chatted about this before. And I think he took his foot off the gas a little bit more than he needed to, and I got lucky. But
well, I don't know. I think luck is doing himself a disservice. I think we said that in his head, he feels he should have won, but I don't think he can say whether he would or he wouldn't have. I think he was just gutted that he felt that he could have done more to at least try and win. But that said, I think. I think we, again, like you said, we spoke about him. Is that I don't think there's not many skaters who would come from a position.
Yeah, I led into the last corner. Dad took he went inside me, I think, down the back straight. I closed it up and
after the finish with a lap to go. You hit the. I watched the video recently with a lap to go. You go into that bend first, and then as you come out wide, he goes up the inside, down the back straight, and then I think he thinks he's just got it, but you just have a sniff of victory. And he always used to say that if anybody gets a sniff, if anybody's going to get a sniff of victory and do it, it's Harlow. He will always, he should never, and I think that was what gutted him, was the fact that he knew deep down that was exactly what was going to happen, is that you wouldn't give up the ghost.
Well, I'm so pleased I upset him.
Yeah, he hasn't got over it. But again, it's another 20k, and so do you see yourself as a distance skater?
I was pretty decent at 20s, and I seemed to be good at 1500s and 5s. I never really got on well with 10s, and I don't know whether it's just that around that kind of 20-minute period I used to go through a bit of a bad time.
Okay.
I don't know, but I think my speed endurance was quite good. So 1500s I did okay on. 5k was pretty much speed endurance, and then with the 20s I'd got through the bad period and I was always strong at the end.
Yeah.
That
makes sense.
I was never particularly quick. Time trials and stuff was rubbish.
So you do then go to your first World Championships. It's Bogota, Colombia.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Oh God. I remember we got there, and everything felt fine. It was 9,000 feet altitude.
Yeah, it was high.
Really high, and I prepped for it. I thought I prepped for it. So I was training with a snorkel on, with the end taped up, and I was training in the bathroom on an exercise bike with the shower and the heat and towels stuffed under the door and everything. And, it wasn't exactly a hypoxic chamber, but it was 1984. So when we got there, everything felt fine. Didn't really notice a difference. We were on the 31st floor of the Hilton, and I thought I'll just run up. And I got to about the second flight of stairs, and that was it. I was absolutely knackered. It was shocking, and I did not acclimatise. I was in pieces, and my results will reflect on that. Yeah. I think I did okay in the time trial, because obviously it's anaerobic, but anything that involved transporting oxygen, I was shocked. I got lapped off in the 20, less than halfway through. It was embarrassing.
So we were talking Colombia, and you were saying you're on the 31st floor of you've got altitude sickness already, and you're on the 31st floor of the Hilton.
Yeah.
So, but you didn't feel you did particularly well in them championships at Columbia.
I was awful, shocking. We obviously we were over there for 2.5, maybe 3 weeks. We were there quite a while to try and acclimatise, but at 9,000 feet or a little bit less, I just didn't. And the following year as well, Colorado Springs, I was also appalling. I don't adapt very well to altitude.
And do you think it was because your highest place in Colombia was 18th? That's your highest place.
Yeah,
now, I mean, like,
appalling.
and you know, and do you put it down to just to the altitude, or do you think being your first Worlds, it was a bit?
No, I was in no shape. I was
really.
I really struggled. In fact, I'm not a religious person, but one of the days off, I actually went to church.
Okay.
We went on a cable car ride up this mountain. At the top of there's a church place, and all the walls there's calipers and walking sticks where people have crawled up the mountain to be blessed and to lose their infirmities. Yeah, I wasn't in blessed, and
you went up there to try and get rid of your calipers.
Infirmity. Oh yeah, I was rubbish. I was absolutely useless.
Was that? How did that affect you? Did you have it down, or did you want to come back and train really hard, or what?
I only had 7 days before the Euros.
I was going to say, because you're going to come to the Euros.
I came back, and the you know, I hadn't been well at all. I really struggled. I think towards the end of it, I might have started to adapt a bit, because when I came down from altitude, having performed appallingly at the Euros, it was a very different story. I was in really good nick.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I just rested when I came back. I trained, but like 15, 20k gentle, nothing hard at all, just ticking over, just trying to recover. And I was quite confident. I'd been out to Vienna before that year with your dad.
Yeah.
So we'd scoped out the track. I'd had the wheels sorted out. The road was a proper donkey track.
Yeah,
so I loved it. And it went pretty well.
Well, just what was Bogota like? 'Cause I know the old man always come back and he said it was a basket case of a place.
There's a lot of poverty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of poverty. There'd been a coup relatively recently, so we weren't under armed guard, but we were well looked after.
Okay.
I remember we went off into one of the favelas.
Yeah.
Because there was a guy making skin suits there. So I went off into the favela and bought this load of lycra.
Yeah.
It was obviously it was for cycling, but we found out that we went out and got all this stuff for next to nothing. I bought emeralds back from my mum, uncut.
That's funny enough. I got given an emerald by a Colombian mafia.
There was a lot of poverty, and I was still only, I think I would have been 16 then.
Yeah,
17. I might have been 17.
You were 17. Yeah, you were 17.
Yeah. So it was a real experience. I don't remember. I remember very much one afternoon. The first day we were there, the other teams had been there. I think the French had been there a bit before.
Yeah.
So we were on the track on the road circuit. About 2:45, everyone's packing up and disappearing. We've still got our kit on, we're lapping round, and then heavens opened. 3 o'clock every day, massive downpour, and that I really remember the climate was just very strange.
Okay.
Very strange. We stayed. We were in the Hilton in the central business part of Bogota, but the track was at Park El Salitre, which was a coach ride out, and there were a lot of people there, all around the track. There were barriers and faces up against the barriers, and it was my first Worlds.
Yeah.
And so as the Aussies, who we spent a lot of time with, Becky, and there was Spooner was there, and Jed.
Mark Whitby was there.
Mark Whitby was there. Yeah. Who I see posting pictures of coffee everywhere on Facebook.
Yeah.
It was
because Cobley did all right. I think Cobley got through to the final of the 1500 there. I think.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
And he lost his shoes. Did he lose his shoes on the way back? And did he tie his shoes to the outside of his suitcase? I don't know if you tell me. Anyway.
I don't remember.
But so you've come back, like you said, you've come back and it was a couple of weeks, and then you go to the Europeans in Vienna. And you'd been there and you trained and you'd tried the track out. And first up is the track.
Yeah.
And you take a silver and a bronze on the track.
Yeah.
Did you feel like suddenly you're mixing it now?
Yeah.
You're back?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that like in
well, it was gradual progression from the juniors. I'd done okay at the first Euros. I'd missed on the world. I hadn't gone to that Worlds. Then the next year, it was Argentina. We didn't go. So there'd been 2 or 3 years that I was relatively strong in racing back home, and it was a kind of validation. I learned the trip to Vienna was really formative for me. Not the Euros, but the trip before it. Yeah, I learned an awful lot there. I spent a lot of time with your dad, who really helped me, and Pat was really instructive as well. So I went to Vienna knowing that the Italians would absolutely hate the road. There was a dogleg in it, and it was a donkey track. Yeah. And the track itself wasn't really a track. It was a 400 metre oval, which really suited me. And I'd got the wheels sorted. I'd had big wheels made, hard wheels for the track that just rolled. It was fantastic. I loved it.
So you felt like you were mixing it now. So was that a relief after Bogota?
It was a massive relief, and to be honest, it was a big surprise because it had been awful. Bogota was a real shock for me. I trained hard. I thought I was in good nick, but it didn't happen for me. I started to have a few doubts, but then it all came together in Vienna.
Well, I think from memories like Vienna, I would say probably the last time. I'm going to say this and stick my neck out. I think it's the last time sort of the British contingent, as a contingent, did really well at a European Championships. I know, we've won Europeans or got medals since, but it's been more of an individual thing. Yeah. Like I know Tony Marriott with his medals in '88 and '90, and won the relay in '88, and we got people like Leon Flack was European champion. Then we had Dave McFarlane as a bronze medalist. But '84, you medalled, Cobley medalled. Alison medal, Lisa medal. Yeah. You Cobley and Yarman won the relay. It was like collectively as a unit. Yeah. You came together. In actual fact, I think you almost have won medals. I can't think who else was in the team who didn't, but
there were only 3 of us.
There's only 3 men and 2 women, weren't there? Yeah. So you all came away with medals. Yeah. So the relay then. So we'll talk about the relay because you've done the track and you've got your medals on the track, and you come to the road. You take another silver in the 20k on the road. Yeah. So again, was you because of your performance on the track, was you expected to do the same on the road?
I was expecting to do a little better, if I'm really honest. Okay. Because I wasn't naturally super fast, but I was strong, and it was a super fast track. I mean, it was polished cement. It was
the track
really. So I think they did like an overall Europeans points and races, because there was only 3 of us almost in every race. Yes. I picked up all the points. I topped the table. Okay. Yeah. There's no shirts. There's no medals.
No, it's an overall.
But yes, right. It was a reflection that I'd done well, and I was in a small team. But I was expecting to pick up on the road as well. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, it was a go track.
I know. Yeah, with right hand bends.
Yeah, there's 2 right hand bends, pins on each corner. There were 3 pins. Yeah. Curves. Yeah.
So the talk me through the relay.
I think the inability of European officials to manage a lap board has affected us on multiple occasions. This was one of them. So it worked out incorrectly, but I was on to do the last lap, and I was against the Frenchman Thierry Pernod. I think it might have been your dad, or maybe it was Cobley, but we had a bit of a gap. There was just 2 of us left. I think the Italians might have...
Hermes Fossi caught the old man skating, he went down.
Yeah.
And it meant that there was just the English, the British and the French left.
Yeah, and I may be wrong here, but I think they left Pinot on for the second lap. I don't think he did just the last lap. He did the last lap, but I think he did the lap previously.
Oh, okay. I
think he was on to. I think so. I'm not sure, but
not sure.
Anyway, I was fresh, and it turned out really rather well.
There's a sequence of photographs of you heading down that finish straight, and him sprinting, you sprinting, and like I said, and in that sequence of photographs, as you're approaching the line, and across the line, Cobley's very much in the back, right in the background. You can see him with his arms aloft. Yeah. So, what was that like? Becoming a European champion, relay, but European champion,
It was special because it felt to me like it was probably the kind of changing of the guard a little bit.
Yeah.
So your dad was coming towards the end of his career. I think was it his last European medal?
Yes, it was.
I think it was.
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on there. I remember vividly, really as clear as day, going into the last corner. I was in second behind Pinot. And when I'd started skating on the Pier Pavilion, I'd been, Jim Lippitt was my coach. Jim's coach was Reg Smythe, and he used to come down. He was an old guy at the time. He'd put his skates on and come out, and he'd show me how to go out wide into the corner and cut back up the inside. I just, as we go into the last corner, I thought about Reg Smythe, clear as day. I thought about Reg. I said, this is the time. And he went in relatively quick, so he came out wider out the corner and just left me a strip to go down. And it was awesome. Very proud, very, very. I was proud for myself, but I was, it's something about doing it with a team. Yeah. And especially with your dad and Cobley, but your dad mainly. It really meant a lot. And when we stood on the rostrum, and he grabbed hold of both of us and said, "Don't ever forget this. This is special. Yeah. It might never happen again. Just remember this." Yeah. And I do remember the anthem. It was. Couldn't stop smiling.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, it was the end of. It was coming to the end. It'd have been what 35 at that time. It'd have been. In '84, he would have been. He'd have been 35 in the February. So he's nearing his 36th birthday. Yeah. So I think he knew that he weren't going to have many more left. So it was special for him as well. But I remember, and this isn't just blowing smoke up your backside.
No, you're welcome to do that.
All right. If I must. He always used to say like that. He said, had it been anybody else on that last leg, he doesn't think they'd have took on Pinot. How you took him on. He said he had utmost confidence in your ability to beat him down that finishing straight. He thought the fact that you was in with a sniff, he thought, Harlow will do this. He said, I wouldn't have had that confidence in anybody else, himself included.
That's really, it's good to hear. It's really good to hear.
But I think he always felt that about your racing, is that if ever you was in with a shout, you were dangerous, and I think that was how he viewed it. So, but you're talking of dads. Let's talk dads. So your dad was ever present. Yeah. He was always present, and on occasion quite vocal, Yeah. Weren't we all? How much of an influence was he on your success?
100%.
In what way did he, because we spoke about it, I said, was he driven, and you said, well, he was obsessive, but, did everything he did. What was his trade, by the way?
He's an engineer.
Okay.
Sheet metal engineering.
Okay.
And he got into management, but wouldn't toe the line, so it wasn't, there's a surprise. He retired at 53, 54.
Okay.
They did a bit of property stuff and landed up in Ireland.
But his influence on you was, because he followed you to the ends of the earth with his Union Jack beanie on, and I can picture him now.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. When we raced in Italy, he drove there in an army van. We had this green Dormobile army van.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it took, I think it took them 3 or 4 days to get there. Yeah. And Jamie Godden was there, and his dad sadly passed away. But his dad was a mechanic, and Dad said it had taken them 3 or 4 days to drive there. He said, how can it possibly take that long? You know, you've got the van and everything, ex-military van. He said, you know, why did it take that long? And Dad said, it doesn't go over 35 miles an hour. He said he must have some sort of limiter on there. So Jamie's dad went to the van and looked at the accelerator, and there's a hole drilled through the pedal with a pin in it. He pulled the pin out. I think they got back in 2 days.
Yeah. No wonder he signed at 53.
He travelled everywhere. Yeah.
So he obviously didn't go to Bogota with you.
No.
Was that the only one he didn't do, or did he go to all the others?
He didn't go to Colorado Springs either.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anywhere
in Europe. Yeah.
Anywhere in Europe.
Yeah.
So when you raced in Europe,
yeah.
he didn't. He was always there at the Worlds and Euros.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
the Euros. But he was there.
Yeah. I mean, my brother used to race for KRV, the Belgian club.
Yeah.
So he had a second claim membership there.
Yeah.
He'd go over and race weekends. This is when I was at university. And they went over on the motorbike. Dad had some old British bikes. And then when my brother was with the team, and my mum and dad went on the old bike, and they broke down on the bike somewhere on the E3, and it was Dad wasn't going to give the bike up. And there was never going to be RAC cover or anything like that. That wasn't ever going to happen. So they pushed the bike off the motorway, slept on some polystyrene, and then landed up walking about 30 miles to get the bike back to the port. He did everything to get there. Never missed anything, and then trained me up until 18 as well.
Really, I was going to say, was he heavily involved in your training? And was he a coach or just a mentor, or did he? Who coached you at that time?
I think, well, up until probably 15, 16, he very much coached me.
Yeah.
And then he was the club coach, so
right.
a lot of what we did kind of suited me. So we would train, we'd do a lot of interval training, staggered handicap intervals, so everyone would be doing the same thing, but slightly longer distances. For the fitter, you'll be finishing at the same time, have your recovery and go again. But the steady state stuff, that was really left up to the individuals. So I'd do that out on the road with my dad. That would start off, he was on a push bike, then it went to a moped, and then it went to the car. He was always there.
Well, this is the same. This is the sort of period of time now, 84, and that when Ashley was really coming of age, and we've done Ashley's interview and we've spoken all about his medals at juniors, but it was also a class act, and his forte seemed to be sprints.
Yeah.
Certainly, went up against tough opposition, it was sprints.
Yeah.
When it weren't, he could always own any distance. But
yeah.
Did you train together, or was your training regime vastly different to his? Because you was the power skater, the distance skater maybe, but he was the sprinter.
He didn't train for sprints.
Okay.
He never did weights.
Okay.
He never did plyometrics. He did. I think maybe 16, 17. He did start to do some sprint work on some slight downhill gradients to get his cadence up, but training was pretty non-specific, to be honest.
Right.
And we didn't know much about it. A lot of what we did was based on the training principles of Percy Cerruti, who was trained at I think he trained Herb Elliott, the New Zealander, but it was very much interval based. And Ash was super quick, naturally.
Yeah, he was very quick.
He wasn't. When we went out on the road, he'd sit behind me, and I'd do the work. He would. I wouldn't. If we were doing distance work, he would do the work, but he would be very much sat on my back.
Okay, yeah. So he'd tag along.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and in '85, so you had another 2 British titles to your tally, and and actually joins you on the senior circuit, and he also wins a title on Birmingham Wheels. What was it like having your brother race with you? I mean, because you hadn't really raced together up until the point you were senior, and then he turned.
I couldn't wait for it. I couldn't wait for it.
Was you really itching to get?
Yeah, I didn't care about winning at all. I just wanted him to win. But he was much more talented. There was no doubt about that. But both of us faded away at 18. It didn't really go on beyond there.
Yeah, but when he joined you in the senior ranks, like, was it like you've now got a partner in crime, if you like? I mean, people always talk about, maybe. I mean, you got Mickey McGough and Tommy Bartlett from the Palace. I mean, probably they probably didn't work together. Like, but people always talk about Fry Mullane. Fry Mullane. People always talk about Fry Mullane. But from the Harlow perspective, was that what you was waiting for? It's now going to be the Harlow dominant. It's going to be the Ashley and Rowan show. And so, when he won his first British title, how was that in the family and perceived? And
I don't wish to be overly arrogant, but it was superly expected.
He
was naturally quick, and I was naturally strong. So if I'm going to put him in the right place, he's going to finish it off.
Yeah.
What, was it a 300? I can't remember.
No, it was the 5K.
It was the 5K.
It was the 5K, and he beat Cobley to the line, because Cobley, Darren never won a title. He never won a British title. Wow.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, and we're going to talk a little bit about Cobley a bit later on, and this is for you, Darren, if you're watching. It will be. So, but the Herne Bay team, because Ian Ashby had joined Birmingham Wheels, because he
moved up to Birmingham.
He moved to Birmingham, basically. I helped him find a job. He wanted some work, and I helped him find a job, and it was in Birmingham, so he moved to Birmingham and actually joined Birmingham Wheels. But and John Quinney had gone by the wayside, and Jacko had gone by the wayside. So really, Herne Bay only really consisted of yourself and Ashley. What had happened to the team? I mean, it's 85, so you're talking 6 or 7 years, but like from where they were in 1980, where you'd got all your Kevin Taunton's, your Sean Birch's, all the names I spoke about earlier, by 85, it's you and Ashley. Yeah. What had happened to Herne Bay?
I don't know. I've not really reflected on that before. I mean,
I know a lot of them didn't progress past senior. So for the likes of I always expected Simon Burgess to be, senior. Never did. Never turned. Finished as a junior. Never went. Suzanne Jackson. Similar sort of thing really. Junior. Never really did.
Junior International.
Junior International. These people,
Lisa
Simon.
Burgess as well.
Lisa. I mean, Lisa went on to win a world medal in Colorado. But in the relay, you see, you forget, people forget. But the thing is that, like you say, is that Lisa. I know Debbie Kitchener joined the fold for a period, but really the nucleus was yourself and Ashley. It was. I think the question was what happened to all these kids? What happened? They never came through to the senior ranks. It just never happened, and I don't know why.
I don't know. I suppose at 18 I disappeared off to uni. I wasn't around.
Okay.
My brother was kind of flitting in and out. At one point, he gave up and took up fishing for 6 months.
Right.
He was prodigiously talented, but never really. It wasn't the most important thing to him. Yeah. And I don't know. Kids grow up. There wasn't a natural progression.
I mean, we do see that a lot with the Birmingham Wheels team. We see a lot. They're never really. But it's
a real shame because
it is.
At the time Mum and Dad had put everything into it. We'd gone from Herne Bay United getting 15 minutes at the end of a hockey session on the pier to racing on William Street car park to having a bang track.
Yeah, I know.
A bit of a goat track, but
I am going to talk about the track as well in a bit, but it is like I said, is that I can picture the not just the kids who raced, but like the parents. I know the sad story about Paul Turner and we got Charlie in there, but the Turners, the Burgesses, the Jacksons, all these, not just the kids who are racing, but the families who are involved in the infrastructure of the club, and it just seemed to, by 85, it just seemed to
it ran out
dissipated.
of steam, didn't
It did. So
the parents were obviously weren't involved once the kids stopped.
Yeah,
and
that's
it all,
the thing.
it all just fell apart. Yeah.
But 85, you're still going strong because we had the Americans over for the Palace International in 85 because we got the World Games coming up.
Yeah.
And I don't know what, I always think about Bobby Kaiser.
Yeah.
And there was a 3,000 metres and you give him a real run for his money.
I did, yeah.
And I just remember him coming off and going, hey, who's this Barlow kid?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Which really made me laugh because, but he certainly took notice of it.
I think the Italians were there as well, weren't they?
They did do, but they didn't do that international.
Okay.
The Italians had raised the Palace International a couple of years earlier. With Cucciani and Fossi and Bagnolini and
Ugo,
so anyway the Americans came over and we had I think
I do remember that.
Tony Keefe was racing as well.
Yeah, Jeb was there. And Donny Van Patter was there.
Donny Van Patter was there.
So it was Tatum Park, basically as my home track, wasn't it? I knew the line. I wasn't in bad nick, so I enjoyed that. I mean, it actually made me feel like, gosh, I'm not that far
off. Yeah, because they destroyed everybody else.
Yeah.
So the Europeans come and they're in Cassano D'Adda in 85, and you get another medal.
Yeah.
So in the 20k, how did that come about?
I was in pieces. If you've seen the video, I'm pretty sure I've got half my leg hanging off.
Right.
One of the callers, it was a relatively newly known road circuit, and it had started to bubble a bit, so they rubbed cement dust into it to kind of smooth it out, and I'd fallen over on it and ripped myself to pieces. But in the 20, I think it was won by Massimo Muzzi.
Right.
And Sonu Nasibid
from France,
hit it about 600 metres to go. So it was a long drawn out sprint, and I came really strong. I was really quite close to Muzzi coming down the finishing straight. It was a bit like the Vienna bit, but I just didn't have enough time and I wasn't quick enough. But I remember it really well. Yeah,
and I think on the podium you got your cut off sleeve Millets t-shirt on. I think you're a Maloney both ball, but
looking my best.
Looking your best,
and swimming trunks.
And so the little tight shorts.
Never known for big shorts.
I remember the old Blue Peter thing. And then you go to Colorado for the Worlds. So this is your second Worlds now in 2 years. But your performances in Colorado are
shocking,
quite below where you expected
altitude to be. Again.
And is that what you think it is?
I think so. I really do think so. I was terrible.
Yeah, you didn't break into the top 20 in Colorado.
No, it was absolutely shocking.
How did that affect you mentally? Did it affect you mentally?
I think it must have done. Because I obviously thought I was better than I was. But it was a real jolt to the system.
Yeah. Well, Colorado, like you said, is a bit of a non-event. I think for the whole British team, if I'm honest, except for the girls.
Yeah.
Except for the girls who come away with a bronze medal in the relay: Alison, Lisa Smith, Lisa Burgess. I mean, that was a real, that's a real coup.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's a quiz question, isn't it? Which British girl, won a bronze medal in a World Championships other than Lisa Burgess and Alison Hartley in the 80s? Who would know it was Lisa Burgess?
Yeah.
Lisa Smith, I should have said.
Yeah.
So anyway, but 1986 is a pivotal year. Not so much for you, well, it is for you, but more so, it saw the emergence of the Whiz Beach lot.
Yeah.
86. They're just hell-bent on lapping the field.
Yeah.
Just attack, And some might say that you had difficulty in adjusting to that way of racing. Do you agree with that, or what's your thoughts on that?
That way of racing should have suited me perfectly well. But I was away from home. I wasn't training anything like I needed to. It was solitary, and I didn't put the work in. But
this is 86. So what was you doing away from home?
I was at university.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I'd been at home and I'd been training with the club or with Ash, then I think I'd have been a bit more competitive. But the bright lights of London.
Okay. And how long were you there for?
4 years.
Right. Okay.
That was the end of me.
And you think that had a big impact on?
Oh, huge, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so these guys have obviously got fire in the belly.
Yeah.
Andrew Newton, Tucky. I know Hugh Doggett didn't race for them, but he had the same mentality.
Exactly.
Just
Yeah.
attack.
Yeah.
You know, and
but if you reflect on how I used to race,
yeah.
that really should have suited me.
Yeah.
I just need to pick one back and stay on it.
Yeah.
I'd have been fine, but I didn't have the legs.
Yeah. Okay. So, but it's also the year that Herne Bay got its own track.
Yeah.
So how did the track come about?
There'd been talks about putting the track together for a long time. We got the land, the council agreed some sort of tenancy there. Funding, I'm not sure how that all came about. There was a tarmac company involved. I don't know where we got the plans for the track. I think your dad might have been involved in that to some extent.
Don't know. I know it was a 166 track, wasn't it? It was 166 metres.
Yeah. There was limited side. Why did they build a 166 track for me? Oh God.
Well, that was the thing. Everybody used to say, like obviously on the outside, not but from the outside, everybody believed that it was built for Ashley.
Yeah.
You know, because he was a sprinter, 166 suited him, 3 laps to 500.
Yeah.
Things like that. How true that is, I have no idea. But I thought your dad had a lot to do with it, and you know. And,
yeah, he was the driving force in the club at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
There would have been issues with the actual parcel of land that we had as to whether we'd have got anything much bigger on there anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I wasn't. I think I would have been away at uni at that time when it was being built. I don't really remember too clearly. But I wasn't involved in any of that at all. I didn't have much.
What did you think of the track? What did you think of the track?
It was.
You didn't like it.
It wasn't Vienna or Palmer Park, was it?
No, it was a tight old track.
Yeah.
I used to find racing that it didn't seem to have any rebound. It was like quite a dead material.
Yeah.
You know, like where you got the asphalted tater and you can get pushed through the ground. It suits a power skater. I felt that you was almost skitting over the surface on Westbrook Lane. You did take a British Championship medal on there though. You took a bronze in the 1500 metres.
Did I?
Well, you should have been set. Well, you say you should have been second. You was actually declassified to third.
Okay.
And I actually think. I need to check. But I think the old man won it, and I think you were just behind the old man in the 1500.
Okay.
And then, but for some reason you got declassified. But that was the only medal that you took on that track.
I didn't like it.
No.
It was. I was really proud we got a facility. It was. We come from, nothing, and But I mean, I enjoyed the early days of the Flyers more when we had the Herne Bay International. We did the
road race
and town, and
that's right.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
But no, the track was never really my bag.
And it's so 86 is also it is a real lean year for you, and I think we've touched on it. But you only win one individual race in 86, and that's the Jack Abbey Cup. Okay, it's in June. It's on Tatum Park, another favourite track of yours. But I take it you wasn't training hard at that point of time, or you was, or
what year was this?
86. So this is the year you must have gone to uni. 86. Had other things started to creep into your personal life around 86?
86.
Because you didn't. Because
I'd been 20. I had necrosis of a tendon.
Right.
In my ankle, and I had a fairly big operation. They cleaned it all out. I could barely walk, let alone skate. So I was off skates for a long time.
Right.
And I guess London life took over.
Yeah, because this is now, 86, the Euros in Finale Amelia, you don't get selected. The Worlds are in Adelaide and you don't get selected.
Yeah, no, I was nowhere. Did I race much? I don't think so.
Not really, no. 86, it's sort of okay in 86, you're doing it. You're helping Ashley a lot and you're racing for Ashley a lot. But you didn't go to Worlds or Euros. Do you think that was expected? Had your interest started to wane? What was it that was missing, if you like, from...
I just wasn't in good nick. I just wasn't in a position I didn't deserve to go. So there was no surprise I wasn't selected.
The disappointment?
No, I wouldn't have been disappointed because I wouldn't expect it to go. I wasn't performing it. I didn't justify it at all.
So then you do a couple of races in '87, really just a few, token races really, cameo appearances, and on the 5th of July, championships at Tatum Park, you do, I think it might be the 1500, you step off the track and you just never get back on it.
Yeah.
Was that a conscious decision at that time? Did you step off the track on the 5th of July and go, I'm never doing this again? Or did you do it and then, before the next race, think, I'm just not into this a bit? And
I think the thoughts at that point would have been, I'm not going to embarrass myself anymore. I've been decent. I am not decent now. Unless I can get myself back in shape, this isn't going to happen.
But what had built to that point to you saying, I'm done. I'm 20. I'm only 20, but I'm done. Was it the bright lights of London? Was it uni? Or was it a combination of things? Or
probably a lot of things.
Or did you just had enough? I don't know.
I've been training since I was 10 or 11 and training really hard. I was never pushed into doing it. I always wanted. I had to be held back. I loved it. I think I probably burnt out a bit.
So you're only 20.
Yeah.
Do you think you could have regained your dominance?
I really regret that inline didn't come sooner.
Okay.
Because I think the sort of technique I had, the sort of size I had, I think I'd have been quite well suited to inline. Roads, obviously, not the track stuff, but I think it would have been something that I should have been, and I could have been. I mean, I wasn't exactly over the hill. I'd been in my early 20s.
Yeah, well, inlines came in '92.
Yeah.
So when they first just hit the scene, and then they took off from there. But
Yeah.
'92, so you're still 5 years away from that. But so you'd have been mid-20s.
I'd have been 25, 26.
And
at that age, I should have been my absolute peak, and I definitely wasn't.
Yeah. So the fact that inline's thing, but do you have any regrets about stopping so early in your career? Do you look back on it and think, I wish I'd have carried on?
Yeah.
I wish I'd have done.
Yeah, I do. Absolutely, I do. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
And how does that manifest itself though? Is that like does it keep you awake at night?
I don't think about it too much. You put me on the spot here, I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, what a waste. Yeah, I had the ability to do it, and it was becoming a much, much bigger sport than it was when I was competing. It's truly global now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a profession now almost. For the elite.
And who knows? Maybe I could have made a profession out of it if I'd been around at the right time in the right shape. But ifs and buts and maybes.
Well, you could have won up with 100 British Championships for to people that compete in them these days, but but it's as I said,
the time that I had, I absolutely loved it. I loved the competition.
I think I get that. I mean, having been party to that with, obviously I wasn't in the same league as you, but racing in those races and the feel of it, and the ups and downs, the barneys we used to have, you know what I mean. It's all part of it. But I when I look back, I can understand why you would say that you enjoy that. So if you was to pick a race that stands out for you as perhaps the most memorable in your skating career, I don't know if we've touched on it. I don't know if there's a tin pot race around Somerset Road School. I don't know. Is there a race that you could pick out that really is one of your most memorable, that you think, actually, that was a real most memorable race for me?
Well, I think there's probably three that I remember, and we picked on all of them. The 20k on Birmingham Wheels when I popped your dad on down the finishing straight.
That's it. Just in case you're listening,
Dave. Certainly the Reading 20 as a 15-year-old winning my first national title, that was big. I do remember the Kasana Dada, the second in the against Mutsi.
Yeah, 20.
I can feel it. I've watched it on video. I remember it vividly. I remember the weekend we went away to Vienna
Yeah.
with your dad. I learnt a lot then. It came about really because I had to race as like his domestique. I'd won the first race, and then your dad had got disqualified.
He threw his watch off. He threw his watch to somebody.
Yeah,
he took his watch off on the start line and threw it off, and they disqualified him before the start of the race and didn't tell him. Yeah, and then so that's why I think. Yeah.
So, but because of that,
yeah.
I was racing to lead him out
Yeah.
and block, and the sort of stuff that him and Mulaney. I felt like the new Mulaney. It was brilliant. I loved it.
Yeah.
I learned a lot, and he was teaching me about if you're coming down the straight, you kind of offsetting each other. It was really informative.
Yeah.
And I remember that weekend vividly. It was excellent. I remember racing. It was an outdoor race, not Mallory Park. I mentioned it to you earlier when my wheel came off.
Oh, Crystal Palace.
No.
Oh.
The circlip on my axle came off.
Oh yeah, Abbey Park in
Abbey
Leicester.
Park, yeah. Ian Ashby won the race, and I came home with half an axle worn off on their tarmac. So I did lots of very happy memories. Not too many of losing. They're never very happy. Some good memories.
And what would you consider doing differently if you were given the chance? Would you consider doing anything differently?
I wouldn't change anything up to 18.
Okay.
But I think I was so well looked after, so well managed within that family network. And I'd extend that to Krishna's family as well.
Yeah.
They were brilliant. I was the centre of everything when it came to skating.
Yeah.
And then I went to uni, did a sports degree, and I was with a lot of other people in other sports that were much bigger than what we did. And I had my head turned, I guess. I didn't take it as seriously as I should have done, and I think I had a bad problem with my ankle, the operation that I had, so that took about a year out, but basically 4 years out, and I never came back from that. So should I have gone to uni? No. Should I have gone full time? Probably. But no.
And you got involved in the coaching aspect of the sport for a brief period in like the sort of late 80s. You doing the uni degree, or you'd done it, and
I did.
And you did
I was
some
working in banking at that point, but
that's
right.
I did. You did some. How did that come about? Was you approached, or did you say, "Oh, I can"?
Yeah, no, I was approached. They wanted me to go onto the roller speed committee. I did a bit, and then I was asked to do some coaching, which I did.
I remember that. I remember us being at Somerset Road School, and you'd been doing some training session there.
Yeah. I can't really remember. There was a falling out, and I remember I wrote to every member of the roller speed committee and said, "That's it. I'm done. Yeah, I'm not going to be involved in any of this anymore."
And I know we touched on this just off camera, really, but I said I recalled you being part of like a selection committee or something to do with the federation in '93, and I tell you who was selected at the same time was Bidan.
Oh right.
He got selected for the team when we went to France. But I said that I remember. You don't recall that at all, do you?
No, I don't.
No. Well, as I said, it is in my head. I mean, that'd have been '93, so it'd have been like late 20s by now. We were 26, 27. But,
yeah.
Do you still watch videos of the sport, or have you distanced yourself from it completely?
Very occasionally, if I pick something up on YouTube, I've watched the Vienna. I've watched that's Vienna '84. I've watched some of the clips from the Spanish second junior Euros.
Yeah.
But not really.
No. Yeah.
Not really. I've watched some of the more contemporary stuff. If I see it flash up on Facebook, I've seen some of the short track stuff that's done on inlines. Different sports now completely.
Well, I've seen your comments. I know I got quite vocal recently about the fact that they held the British Championships at the same time as the World Championships.
Unbelievable.
And you know, and it was the Rohan Harlow that I know sort of, you know, commented.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Well, you're not surprised, are you?
I'm not surprised. I'm, as I said, well, I suppose that them are just. I haven't. It's not so much I've calmed down a bit now, but like I'm sure you can understand the sentiments.
100%, yeah. Utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
How you got to support your best player, your best skaters, haven't you? Why would you prevent them from doing one or the other?
I have no idea, but anyway, they did.
Yeah, very, very, very poor.
I mean, you can't imagine that being allowed to happen.
Any other sport?
In any other sport, or you know, it's you know, even as a minority sport as us back in the day, could you imagine if they'd have held the British Championships on the same time as the Worlds or Euros? What the outcry would have been.
I remember going to the Sports Aid Foundation.
It would have been.
No, it was I was sponsored by them. I used to get grants and stuff, but no, the Sports Council representing roller speed. It was just before BFRS and
yes, okay, yeah, there was an NSA council.
So the NSA were basically kicking out roller speed, and it was the Sports Council were looking at the viability of the sport and the funding and everything. I went along, and it was just an embarrassment.
Yeah,
it was an absolute embarrassment.
Yeah,
tin pot. The administration was just utterly unprofessional, this fat bucket stuff, and
I think the thing is, it's always difficult because I get the people who run the sport these days, you know, well, as always, are just volunteers.
Yeah.
And I know that, and I accept that. And there's nothing wrong in getting it wrong. What I struggle with is there's no self-reflection by certain people.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway, that's this thing.
So I know no one that's involved in the administration now. I may do, but I wouldn't be aware of what they do.
You wouldn't know.
So I can't comment on what they do, but yeah, it would appear that the sport's contracted even further. You're saying that you get 10 people in a race now.
The membership is growing. I'm not entirely sure that the direction of the sport is conducive to building an elite membership. I've got ideas about what is and what isn't. About, I'm just
me too, to some extent. I think
we're a long way off ever being an elite.
Yeah. When you make the core of the sport mass participation, you have to do it based on rinks. You can't do it based on road circuits.
Yeah, well, that's another one of my bugbears, but I'm desperately trying to get Darren Cobley to sit down and do this, but so far he's resisted my efforts. So what would you like to say to Darren now to convince him to come and do this?
Right, Darren, I still have a pair of white slip-on shoes with a red zip across the forefoot that I stole from you in Vienna. I might have given you a £5 for them, but I can't throw them away. So if you come back, I promise I'll send them.
So do you think he should do this?
100%, yeah. It's been really reflective for me. So many things that I'd forgotten about. You've got all the data there, and you've brought back some really happy memories. And I think, Darren, come on, get your life together, mate.
And what did you make of Ashley's interview?
What a humble chap he is.
Yeah. And what do you think he's going to make of yours?
He's going to say, you're normally as arrogant as you always were.
Brilliant. Well, look, I'm no Piers Morgan, I'm certainly no Michael Parkinson, but Rohan Harlow, British skating legend, what a fantastic afternoon I've had with you. Well done.
I've really enjoyed it,
thanks
John.
a lot.
Thanks. And not just for this interview, but all that you do. It's really appreciated.
It's much appreciated. Thank you very much.